Okay, let's start. Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to see all of you here. I'm Rong Zhang. I'm active in sig-cluster-lifecycle, Kubespray maintainer, community member. And now I work for Sony.com, a container platform R&D center, mainly responsible for container platform scheduling. And today I'm going to talk about Kubespray functions, Kubespray community, and our future plans. And I will also talk about the topics that may interest you. First, let's take a look at the Kubespray overview. Kubespray is a sig-cluster lifecycle project. It's a single cluster lifecycle project that can create, configure, and manage Kubernetes cluster. It provides optional addictive functionality on top of core Kubernetes. The mission of Kubespray is to easily install and manage Kubernetes clusters. Now, let us look at Kubespray in great detail. Kubespray is a cluster lifecycle manager. It is composable, very flexible. It is production ready, and it is based on Ansible. You only need to install a system, for example, Docker, CLO, RPM package, or Debina. It supports cross-platform and cross-architecture deployment. And our community was established in 2015, and we became a base of kubeADM since 2018. You just need to bring your own machine to run Ansible and install Ansible. Then you can deploy Kubespray, and we are a certified installer by CNCF. So this is Kubespray at a glance. Now let's look at the deployment workflow. First of all, our first step, the Kubespray OS in the past need to be chosen by yourself. Now you can automatically check the OS system. You don't need to choose. So this is first step, bootstrap OS. Second is a pre-install. You need to do some checks. For example, DNS or hostname check or network plugin check. If your network plugin is not within a Kubespray, it will send out alert. So this is pre-install, and then you need to install Docker and etcd, and then you need to install master and minion and configure a network plugin, and then you need to install add-ons like dashboard or storage plugins. So this is the deployment workflow for Kubespray. Usually speaking, Kubespray cluster lifecycle support all cluster lifecycle management. So it supports full lifecycle of cluster operations. Create a new cluster, upgrade cluster, scale a cluster by scale master or scale node. If a node fails, you can remove one node or more than one nodes. Or if one cluster doesn't work anymore, you can remove an entire cluster. By upgrading cluster, it will back up to etcd. So this is functions of lifecycle management. Now let's look at certificate management. Kubespray. It uses kubeADM to do certificate management. It will automatically generate certificates. And for etcd, the names are based on Envoy files. It will generate certificate in the first node. It will generate all certificates in the first node, and then it will check whether a certificate is present on the second node. If not, it will copy to the second node. So it will copy certificate to master to all the nodes, and it supports member, client, and admin certificates. Now let's look at HA architecture. etcd HA architecture. You use one server. Usually, etcd, if you have 3 etcd, and if 2 fails, then the entire will fail. And then the API server high availability. It supports external LB, for example, Cloud LB or F5 LB. Of course, it supports other LBs. I will not go into details. And Kubespray also support local IB based on NGX or proxy. It can run static pod in Kubernetes cluster. Now let's look at local LB structure. What is the benefit of a local LB? It's more practical and has more economic value. Whether you use F5 or Cloud LB, you need to pay. But if you use local LB, if you use it at a physical machine or cloud, it's free of charge. So it has a better value for money. So Kubespray support local LB. Now let's look at the user options provided by Kubespray. Host provider, OS network, certificate management, container engine, Kubernetes features, and deployment mode. Host provider, I will not go into details. OS, we have CentOS, SUSE, Debian, container, Linux, Red Hat, Redora, Atomic, Ubuntu. Network plugins, it depends on your underlying architecture. For example, Flannel, you can support host gateway. You can put in them, use a host gateway to separate the control plane from other planes. Container engine, we support Docker and CRIO, which only support CRIO under Red Hat. And Kubernetes feature, which include cloud provider, pod security policy, basic author, OIDC, QoS, GPU, audit log, and proxy mode. Of course, there are other important features which are not listed here. As to deployment mode, for etcd deployment, if your node, if the number of nodes is more than 2,000, your etcd cluster will have a latency problem. You can divide it into 2 cluster. One is to store metadata, one is to store etcd event data. In this way, it will improve the performance of etcd. HA mode, I've already talked about it. Cross-platform deployment. Kubespray first support bare metal deployment, which include OpenStack, GCP, and cloud and other cloud platforms. by Ansible or Terraform, you can set up virtual machine and then return to Kubespray, which can set up cluster. And you can also use TK8 tool. It is written by Golang, and you can use a TK8 tool. Multi-architecture deployment. You can choose ARM64 or AMD64 for deployment. If plugin doesn't support ARM64 or AMD64, well, Flannel should support ARM and ARM64. So you can try yourself using this link. Next, let me talk about Kubespray community development. Over the past 1 year, Kubespray has grown very fast. Now we have 6,400 stars. We have 2,600 forks and 4,400 commits and 450 contributors. Most of which actually join us over the past 1 year. That is, over the past 1 year, the number of contributors grew by over 200. Now let me talk about the codes of conduct for Kubespray community. We want to provide production-ready clusters, so all components need to be tested, and all components need to be safe for upgrades. All components are HA-ready and scalable. And minimal comprehensive set of applications. At the same time, Kubespray is inclusive. All components run on all supported operating systems, and container runtime and network plugins can be chosen by yourself. And it is an architecture based on Ansible. You can customize your own development. All options are configurable, but defaults are KAS upstream defaults. Kubespray has its own opinion on deployment strategy. For example, it only supports boundary or container deployment instead of RPM package or demeanor package. As a result, it will become too complicated or not transparent enough. And on-premise is the first-class choice for deployment. Next, let me talk about continuous integration. In the past, we deploy CL on GCE. Well, but now the number of PR has been increasing. So we have got the donation from CNCF and a French company and open a stack. Currently, our CR has been put in Pacta block, which is a provider. We have created a 10 Kubernetes cluster and install KubeWatt. Through KubeWatt, we build virtual machines, and through Kubespray, we deploy AKS clusters and test. Currently, we support 6 operating systems and 7 network plugins, and we support on-premise and cloud deployment. And our deployment strategies include all-in-one, separate hosts, that is a separate kubemaster, etcd, and kubenode. Kubemaster and etcd are deployed on one node, or they can be separated. And next is a HA deployment.
And also, the graceful upgrade and non-graceful upgrade, and that is the CR. And then, if you use Kube 3, the process is improved by a lot. We can run a lot of tests. For example, YAML and also the Ansible lint. And also now we have the shell and peasant, and also Terraform. All of the parameters can be set in the Kubernetes node default. It can be set there, and for the long-term contribution, for example, we have added new OSs and also new network plugin or new storage plugin. If it's a plugin that only works on a single OS, we don't accept that, and also Helm charts, we don't accept that. The deployment of Helm charts, for example, if you want to install an AFK or other software on the production cluster, you cannot just use one step to satisfy all of the requirements. It's impossible. So now for Kubespray, it's more about the lifecycle management. And if you submit a feature, for example, the network plugin, then you can add your name to it and you maintain it. If nobody maintains that, and if it's faulty, then we may waste it. Then for Kubespray release, we support it like this. From 2.0, in the past we only have the master branch. We only maintain the master branch. For the other branches, well, they're not that stable. For example, 2.7, 2.8, and later we will support the 2.8.1 or 2.8.2 as long as we if we have bugs, we can fix them ourselves, and also we can fix the master branch bugs. And if you want to renew faster, you can tell us, and we can just release it pretty fast. And then let's talk about the Kubespray community in 2019. First, we supported the kubeadm experimental control plane. It's provided by kubeadm community, and it's the mask function and node local DNS. That means for every node there is a local DNS. It's a new project. It is the DNS local cache. It is more about it is the function of service discovery, and also we have the HA proxy load balancer, and also we support ARM now, and we have clear in Linux OS support, and also we support the local path provisioner. And then for CI, we support the kubevert to create VM, and then we return the RP to Kubespray. Then the Kubespray would deploy, and then on OVH, it's based on OpenStack, so we use that to test offline environment and also the OpenStack environment. We use Terraform to create VM to let it drive the Kubespray, and also we have the K8s conformance. And as for roadmap, this is the roadmap. Now, for a lot of the options, they're not that transparent, and documentation is still a weak link. We hope that the configuration is more transparent, or we can make them into parameters. And we want to support the SIG and the upstream community. For example, the kubeadm, component config, and etcd admin. So for kubeadm or etcd admin, you know that for component config, it's for the configuration of each component. This is not fully released into the community yet. It's just that somebody in the community mentioned this direction. For kubeadm, if we want to deploy, you need to have this class and class configure and crop proxy and kubenet. You configure those. That is recorded in the configure map, and if you manage a cluster, then class config, there are 200 or 300 lines of config files. It's hard to revise. So if there is the component config, then it's programmable, it's more transparent, and then the maintenance can be tighter and easier. Then the decentralized orchestration, it is to speed up the scaling, and also it supports now the automatic scaling, and also we support multi-arc and CI. This is the Kubespray community. You can use Slack, GitHub, or WeChat to contact us. And this is the channel group of WeChat of Kubespray. If you want, you can scan it, and you can ask questions, and I will try to answer them. You don't support auto-scaling? Kubernetes node scaling. Do you support that? Yes, but you need to manually add them. When you add the nodes, the kubelet installation and so on, do you need people to install that? No, it's automatic. Okay, so as long as we add the node, then we run it, we run the Ansible, then there is a new machine. Yes, and it's automatic, right? Yes. Really? Yeah, you can try it. Okay, thank you. Wait. I'm not done yet, actually. So, an interesting topic. Do you think Kubernetes deployment is slow? Yes, it's slow, but acceptable. 30 minutes. How many nodes? 10. 10 nodes, 30 minutes. It's because when you download it, you need a lot of time. So Amazon, it's okay, but in China, it's even unimaginable. So I can give you some suggestions. For example, you can have a bigger memory, and also you can have the Ansible node near the target nodes, and also you can choose low latency machines. And also, when you deploy, you can deploy master nodes first, then the other nodes. You can use the limit or retax. And also, now we support control plan, and it simplifies the process. So that was my topic. So if you want, we can discuss it. And there is another thing about managing Kubernetes in air-gapped and offline environment. So actually, if you want to ask questions, it's not limited to my presentation. Thank you. It is the Ansible script. Okay, it's Ansible script. So it's a command line tool. There's no API, right? No API. You can implement API. So all of the operation is based on command line with parameter to upgrade or scale up, right? Yes. Okay. I'm a user. I'll have 3 questions. First, Kubespray. Can it pack binary? You can download binary packet and other things, but in UCR.io, what in China you cannot access to it. So how do you deal with that? Yeah, you can listen to my next topic. How do we? Yeah, actually, there is this operation. For example, we can download it to OneNote. Yeah, we know it. So there's the delegate option, but there's a problem. The delegate node, when it's downloaded, it's slash temper. So 1 day later, the temp folder is cleaned, so we need to re-download it. But we know the volume is quite big, so there is no valid option to put it in a very good folder. That is the problem. Now speak into the microphone. So the binary files and the image. Do we have the repository in China? Yeah. Maybe on the row there is a folder. All of the links you can just change it to the accessible in China, but we haven't found that. But maybe you can talk about that later. And also, if a node is lost, for example, it's down or it's deleted by fault, then in the inventory, if we want to change the inventory, the script will fail in running. So what do you do? So we can just try to use remote load and then we can reinstall it. Can we do that? So you uninstall first and then you reinstall the cast ADM, because in it there are some files that can cause the installation to fail. For example, if one node is missing, then in inventory we just remove the line of that, and then we run the run the road again, right? Okay. The third, sig-cluster-lifecycle. Do you have anyone doing the Ali Cloud and integrate Hatchy bot in the system? No, nobody yet. For Ali Cloud, we don't support that yet, but if you're interested, you can just have one PR to try to fix that. Any other questions? I have a question. So, did you use Kubespray to upgrade? Of course. When we upgrade with it, we have some pain points. We had 4 clusters being upgraded by that, and the other key cluster is very important, so we are not that trusting it. So for example, for the grid for upgrade, for when it's downloading the image or YAM, it can hang there. If the time is short, it may just jump ahead. I remember that there was this 15 plus 3 master node we upgraded for 4 to 5 hours. We have to wait there. We cannot do anything else. Yeah, somebody asked that. Because we want to switch to maintenance mode for that node. Sometimes it can evict some pod. It can consume some time. Yeah. So if the apps have different replications, you can just don't consider it and remove that. You mean manually switch it to maintenance? Yes, we can remove the undrawn processes, because if you switch it to remove a bot, then it can evict some pods and then it takes some time. Yeah, it can have some impact. So I have this experience. When we upgrade, sometimes the image or YAM pack can be downloaded with Ansible with some node. Then we can use Kubespray to upgrade the kube cluster. Then the time can be saved for downloading. But entering the maintenance mode is really time consuming. Thank you. 1 minute left. Anything else? I have 2 questions. Because when we use Kubespray, yeah, we're using it and we have a big cluster. So it's performance related. One is the HA mode. When you use node bloxing, So how big? You may every node has the NDS proxy, right? So actually, in OpenStack community, somebody tested, we can support 2,000 nodes.
2000? Yes. Tested. Yeah, you've mentioned etcd and event etcd should be separated to improve performance. You can separate etcd and event etcd, and I did that before. It seems ultimately these two etcd could only be put in one node because K8 API server could allocate one certificate. Yeah, the same certificate is the same. You use the same certificate for two etcd clusters in the same node? Yes. Two etcd put in the same node or using one etcd for the same node. It seems it cannot improve the performance of one node because you run on the same node. Yes, but if you have 2,000 nodes in a cluster, you can have one etcd for metadata and the other is for event. It will improve the read and write speed and also improve the performance. Can we put it in two nodes? If we put it in two nodes, it can improve. Even if we separate them, we still put it in one node. Yeah, currently we can only put it in one node. Thank you.